Ed, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. So before we even start into what is a lot of content, a lot of different areas we can go, I have to ask you point blank, how are you surviving the pandemic?
Aside from it being responsible, partially anyhow, for me returning to the United States early, pretty much this has been the best 2-3 months of my life. Very, because so much of my time coming up, we'll just say from like 28 to now 27, 28 is when I really started making a lot of life changes.
Okay.
And so when all that started to happen, there was never ever a stable point for me to like put 2 feet on and feel like, okay, good, things are going to be okay. So I'm very used to things not like this. I mean, which really surprised people. This has kind of been life for the past more than half a decade.
Okay.
And now, what's that have to do with how the pandemic is going? Because I've been building my life as a set of systems that can more or less survive impact when things go wrong. All that happened, like quite literally nothing. No downturn in my income.
Right. Right.
Nothing in my day to day.
That's good to hear.
Because so much of what I do, not so much, all of what I do is based on internet consulting.
Right.
And taking, not just consulting online, but selling product online, creating, writing. Nothing's changed. And there's a whole, I think, I want to say, section of society that this is it's an opportunity. But worst case scenario, nothing happened. Best case, opportunity. And these are the people that have adapted and saw what the internet was going to do, and where it was going to be, and then they position themselves. And I'm proud to say I'm part of that sector of society. So outside of like, okay, so what can't I do? I didn't see when I came back, because I was in Europe when everything really started going crazy.
What part of Europe? Where were you?
Portugal.
You're in Portugal, okay.
And then so I came back over. And
early? Did you come early because of what was coming?
Oh yeah. Because what the original plan was to actually move over there, and then we found out that I didn't have kind of everything to kind of do it. So I was like, all right, how long can I stay?
Right.
And I found out that I got a total of 6 months, normally 3, but then Portugal has something called a visa waiver extension.
Yeah.
All right. So a total of 6. So I got over there like November 15th. So the math worked out that I would have had to be gone by May 15th. And so that was the plan. Got back in March because remember the first week of March, what happens is the CDC and the World Health Organization designate the COVID thing as like a level 3 pandemic or something. Whatever level they designated it as, it was the level that qualified for an evacuation flight. We were like, okay, well, we got to leave anyway. Let's get this flight for free.
Right.
So we took that, came back, and set up shop. So that happened, and when I got back, things were easing into the shutdown, and then I got to see it, in 2 different states, two states that handled it differently. Florida versus Pennsylvania, where we are now. Because I came back and we stayed in Florida for like 3 weeks.
You should have stayed there.
Yeah. That is. We really thought about it.
I'm sorry.
but at the end of the day, because I never lived overseas, that was the first time for me, and I really enjoyed it. But I learned what's important, and I think I put a more value than I previously thought. I put more value on the friendship and the connection. I mean, I went over there, and the only error that I made is that I think I worked a little too much, and so I didn't have enough time to really build connections that I wanted to build. But I was missing my friends, and I'm like, oh, come back and do whatever. But now I have a plan. Like, I have an idea. So, but roundabout way, pandemic has done really nothing except except accelerated something that was going to happen anyway.
It's interesting that I've had creators on here, and I lump you in there. Lump's a funny word, but I put you in that category, partially anyways, of a creator, a content creator. Would you not agree?
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and I've had creators on that have said that the pandemic has been a positive for them in some regards because in their unique circumstances, it forced them to really start to really concentrate on their core business and get more creative because, number one, there was a little bit of fear involved, the unknown, but also, two, being that they really couldn't go anywhere, spend any significant money, and interact with anybody, it brought them inward and where they focus more on their craft.
Oh, yeah. Not only, it's funny you say that because I suppose that also happened is I've been very prolific on my website, particularly, and to me that's the cornerstone of everything I do. Without the website, then I'm just hosted on a bunch of other platforms,
right?
Twitter, Instagram, whatever, right? Other people's shows. I'm just host there. But my website is where I can direct and collect that traffic. I can grab news letter subscriptions. I can sell my products, etc. And I really doubled down and got into just creating things. I was already in the middle of like upgrading my website, but this took it to another level, and things really just pushed along. It's a focus. It's an event, right? And if you use it's like every event. How you use it is going to determine how much progress you make during it. Do you fall back? Mm-hmm. Do you stay the same? Or are you anti-fragile and you get stronger and you get better as things pile on? And yeah, those content creators, I think a lot of them found out. And this is good. That in my opinion, the whole point of sitting there and creating your own content is not so much a hobby. There's got to be a bigger thing you're going after, mm-hmm. and I don't know if they knew what that bigger thing was. For me, I kind of figured it out, and that really helped. But when you know what you're going after, you can go, okay, how can I use this to get there? Otherwise, you're just going to be reacting to what's going on around you. And it's kind of like what is that old saying? Running around like a chicken with the head cut off. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're gonna move here, move here, move here, move here because it just makes sense to move there. But now that we have a real thing to focus our energies on and to kind of prepare for, like for me, I was like, okay, my income's all right. But my girlfriend's income, she's in the travel industry. Hers mm-hmm. is not okay. So now I'm like, now I have to make sure that I always have enough to have my lifestyle without any subsidiary income from my girlfriend. So that's like, that's a focus point. Everybody found their focus point.
You were going to move to Portugal?
Yeah, we was going to move there because she's a citizen of Portugal. She was born there and lived there until she was 10, 11, something like that. Right. And then came over here. So, and for me, like why did I want to do it as opposed to be like, oh, America, right? I always wanted to travel, and I never got a chance to. Like when I was a kid, we grew, very poor and disenfranchised, all the stereotypes, single mom, all that, right? In the housing projects right over in Pittsburgh. And then as I moved into my adulthood, the 18 to 28, 30 range, that kind of young adulthood, there's still no real ability to do so. I went to Mexico. Mm-hmm. And once, but I never really got a chance to go see and do these things, and I always wanted to go see and do them. And then when I finally got some money, I started to travel, mm-hmm. and I said, wow, this is great. And then I went to Portugal in 2017. I said, this place is awesome. why am I going home? I remember waking up in Montestoril and looking out over the ocean. And Montestoril is like right outside of Lisbon. And I remember going, wow, why in the world? There's a hotel with a balcony. I'm looking like, why am I going home? And I look back and I saw my girlfriend. I got a snarl on my face. I'm like, cause she's got a job. Because at that point, I was more or less independently like earning money. There's no job.
Right.
So I started putting everything together to do that. I was like, okay, let me make this happen, because that's what I do. I see a thing and I go, all right, how are we going to acquire this? We're not going to look for excuses why it can't happen. We're going to figure out why it can happen. And started working on that, increasing income, building systems to kind of be in place to make sure that occurs. But at the same time, lo and behold, this is why it's really important that you pick the right person.
Right.
Her travel business is growing, and she's able to stop working full time at all, or stop working at all for anyone else in May of 2019.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, that's great. And so we move, and it's just like nothing, So that was my plan. The plan was, because they recognize common law marriage. I'm not married. We're not married. Was to go and become citizens of the EU, and then I would eventually earn a second passport.
Right.
But that didn't work out, and now we're gonna go back to the drawing board and get back over there. But
is that still the goal?
Oh, absolutely. The goal is freedom, and freedom to me is freedom of location,
right? Freedom
of time. I don't care if I ever become extremely wealthy. I will take $100,000 a year on the internet, free, location independent, semi-passive, all day, every day, than if I got to than $1 million working somewhere else. So to
do what you want to do.
Yeah. So that is the goal, because I want to always have the ability to leave a situation I don't like, because what you learn is that most people's problems center around, and in fact, maybe by definition, I suppose, a person's problems center around a situation they can't leave.
Interesting.
And a situation they can't modify. And I figure every situation, assuming you don't get yourself in legal trouble, which is a self-control issue, every situation can be controlled or modified by either money or location. So for me, it's really important to, okay, if I don't like how things it's funny, I'm sitting here looking at things going on in the country, and I'm like, what a time to come back, right? It'd be great to just kind of dip off. But it's funny now, right? Here's the joke. Because of the way the EU has things set up between the United States, you can enter for 90 days, within a 180-day period. But then after that, you got to stay out for as long as you were in. So I can't
That's interesting.
I can't even go back to Europe. I think I'll be qualified to go back in August, I think. So okay, that's cool.
My.
But even so Europe is just one place. What about I really want to see and spend some time in Buenos Aires. And so I was looking at it, but Argentina is going to be shut down from COVID. So there's this freedom gone. So to me, that is more nerve-wracking than anything that can happen with the economy.
Right.
But so the plan is to be able to go wherever I want to, and I know that having citizenship to a country in the European Union greatly expands the scope of where I can be at any given time.
No doubt. Okay, let's take it back to the beginning here. Obviously, we want as much of your story as you want to give us today. We're under no time constraints at all. Again, thrilled to have you here. There's a lot of material out there on you. You've done, as we were talking off camera, you've done a tremendous amount of interviews over the past couple of years, and we were talking about the length of them, some being very short and concise, some spots being 7 minutes, some being half an hour. I guess because you've told your story so often, the points I'm looking for in your story is those moments in your life that you can look back on in your formidable years too, either when things were going really bad or maybe okay at that moment. Those times where you look back and say, those were turning points for me. Those were the aha moments. And it's been well documented that you grew up in an extremely humble background, public housing, I'm not correct?
Yeah.
Here in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that.
You know,
Well, do you want to?
I don't mind at all. It's just the older. It's funny when you're young. I remember I spent most of my youth believing that how I lived was normal.
Right.
And it wasn't until I went to high school, and for people who aren't familiar with a city like Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh, the way it's set up is that, you know, you can go to there are schools for your neighborhood, right? And for the first 2 years, the first 2 iterations of schooling, elementary and middle school, I went to the neighborhood feeder school, right? So I only knew kids from like my neighborhood,
right,
or the surrounding neighborhoods, which was like 2 other projects and another like really low class neighborhood as well. I mean, so pretty much like I didn't know any better. Like I was aware that like there was a different world.
You had nothing to compare it to.
Right, but I didn't have any like real tangible experience with that other world.
Okay.
That changed when I went to high school, because I went to high school at a place, Shenley High School, way across town from where I grew up. In fact, every day, 1 hour bus ride both ways on public transportation. I had to take 2 buses. One of those, like, you know, you talked about those moments where things change. You know, I don't remember where I got the phrase from, but I refer to those moments as watershed moments. I just know that wasn't an original idea. But that was a watershed moment going to Shenley. And that was a school where it had a feeder base from a few rough areas, but it also had a feeder base from very I don't want to say affluent, but I guess upper middle class neighborhoods. A lot of kids from Squirrel Hill, Shady Side, Point Breeze. These are really nice neighborhoods that fed in to the school, and that was eye opening to me. Because prior to that, the growing up, I mean, you know, all I knew was public housing. I thought everybody kind of lived in that kind of thing. Like, I was aware that there were things outside of public housing, but once again, no experience,
no exposure
to it whatsoever. I had never really gone to school with white people, for example. That was a thing that changed. I thought fighting was really normal, like real, man, like beefs, man, like constant fights, disruptions. One of the reasons I went into middle school so poor at math is because I was so behind, because when they were trying to teach it, there were always disruptions that like ended the class, and they had to have a student escorted out or something like that with security. It's really it's one thing to talk about how low, the disadvantages of growing up in low income, right? And it's another thing entirely to live them, and you realize the difference is not so much money. It's, you know, the poor people can be. You don't need a lot of money to experience a lot, especially not in the world today. I really believe that. The real danger is the attitude that tends to make a person not have financial resources, and then how they react to lack of said resources, and then how that attitude is perpetuated through their children, and then through the people that they interact with and their children interact with, and that forms it's a giant circle of ignorance. I don't know any other way to describe it, but that can pull you in at the very least, even if it doesn't pull you in, because that's what you're surrounded by most of the time. You don't have a chance to really move ahead, and you don't really have a chance to get exposed to a lot of other things. And so, you know, the lucky people, you know, there's one kid in particular I remember who who had a very different outcome than you would expect for somebody from we are. And I remember one of the things that was really distinguishing about this guy is that, you know, his mom didn't let him hang out with anybody in the neighborhood. He went to the elementary school with us, but then he went to a different high school or middle school as well. And I remember, you know, you have your opinion about that when you're a kid because you're a kid and whatever.
Sure.
But the older you get, you're like, wow, it was one of the best possible things you could ever do for your kid, because one thing you learn as well the older you get is that you as a parent, I guess, you have the ability to, you know, you can tell your kids what to do. And to a certain age, I suppose they will listen to you. But then enters the element of society. And then you got to hope that you instilled in them good enough examples,
Right.
That they will look at choices that they have to make and they choose the one that's going to give them the best outcome.
Understood.
And so the problem with an environment like the environment I was around is that a lot of people, they don't, their example was not strong enough to where they were armed with the tools to go, that's not the people I want to hang out with. That's not what I want to be, you know. And I don't think I particularly had a strong set of tools given to me either. I just, you know, sometimes I think I was lucky. Sometimes I think, yeah, I mean, it's luck. There are a lot of things that you can't control, and that's what I call luck. Like,
what was the main thing, Ed? Was it the avoidance of violence? Was it being in at a certain time? What was the main difference that you thought you were not being exposed to?
Honestly, I think it was because I didn't fit in, man. I wanted to play video games, and I wanted to be. I was trying my best to be a kid and be silly.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you know, I wasn't a small kid. I wasn't a large one, but I wasn't small. And I fought like any other, but I, you know, naturally, I'm much more inclined to seek peace and negotiate. Now, one thing you learn is that, if you know, what is that old saying? You know, walk softly and carry a big stick. Right? You didn't really know what that meant as a kid, and then when I learned it, I was like, that's a great policy, and that's how you had to behave. And I think having that mentality saved me on two fronts. One, I did not seek conflict.
Okay.
I won't say I'm conflict averse, but I'm not going to be the one starting things, man. That's just not my style.
Okay.
And though I think I did a good enough job at how I dealt with things to where people were aware that, like, if there was going to be a conflict with this person, it was likely going to end in an unpleasant way.
Got it.
So those two things combined probably kept me from getting in situations where the level of violence that you're capable of executing, you can't really predict the outcome. I know a lot of guys, and you just meet more the older you get, or you hear about them, who threw a punch in a fight, hit the guy the wrong way, or did some kind of irreparable damage, or worse, right? And so now they're dealing with criminal charges, alters their entire life from a scuffle, thing that likely, if the guys walked it off, they'd have been like, oh, cool, let's have a beer afterwards, that kind of deal. And so that didn't work. Another thing that helped, man, I was probably an ugly kid. That really helped.
Get out of here.
And so what ended up happening,
That can't be right.
I didn't, man, I used to have a nickname. They used to call me Congo after this, the ape thing, the Michael Crichton book that they made a movie out of.
Okay.
And that always stuck with me, and I think that inadvertently protected me from ever thinking I could like get girls to like me and behaving in a way that would make it happen, because a lot of the behavior that leads to that, either it is unsuccessful and you just look like a clown, or it is successful and you end up like knocking somebody up or getting involved in a bunch of other drama that you don't want to deal with. So that, I mean, you want to talk about like a blessing in disguise? I'm telling you, not being popular or not having the ability to become popular in that area, and that's another thing. What else kind of makes you popular in this era? You know, I wasn't a fool running around trying to be super social, and I wasn't a great athlete. I didn't start playing a sport at all until I went to high school.
Really?
Yeah. So so I never got a chance to blend in socially there. In many ways, luck. That's why I call it luck. Even though I didn't walk any path that took me. I walked a path that was relatively free of temptation.
No, I get that. I get it.
And then when I finally did do this, I was in an entirely different environment.
Okay.
You know, I'm so happy I didn't get into sports. Right, as a like, say, middle schooler, because maybe I select a school based on sports,
right,
and then I end up in a different place because that's a watershed moment. The friends I made in high school are still my friends today. Very good friends, guys that have helped me.
Don't you think there's a message in that? I mean, that is in and of itself, because there's a lot of kids that sports doesn't resonate with them. And while that seems to be the predominant thing for all kids to do, there's still a pathway. You're living proof to success in a different, a diverse career choice, just something different. You know, it isn't sports or nothing in this country.
Yeah. Now I think there are. Okay, this is what I think. I mean, I will fully admit I am probably out of touch. Right, I'm 35 at this point, but
he's so old.
It's funny, because I never think I'm old, right, at all. And then I think about like the kids that I worked as a tutor for a while, and it really, life changing deal, and a bunch of my kids are just like turning 18 or 19 this year. And that's almost half my age. And I'm like, you don't even remember, like, Walkmans. Have you ever used a CD? Like, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a moment.
And those aren't old things. Like, right. CDs aren't old, man. Right. I still...
Right.
But no, I think... I don't even remember what I was talking about.
We were just talking about, like... you're living proof that you don't have to be a sports major in school.
In this day and age, I think there are enough things. There's enough examples, but like one thing we didn't have. I mean, the internet is a game changer,
no question.
And now, like it seems like, despite how much they cost, a smartphone is like a standard piece of equipment.
Yeah.
For better or worse, I go, technology is amoral. Whatever you do with it is what you do with it.
Right.
But I think having the ability to reach out and touch people, to send a message, to look up we have the Library of Alexandria.
It's amazing.
In our hand. And so a person can, if you want to, people reach out to me all the time, and I don't even think I have that big of a platform. I'm not a YouTuber, right? But I still get people who reach out to me going, what you said helped, or I was looking up answers to this. I did an interview one time with a kid all through email who was looking up stuff related to like growing up in the projects, and they found one of my articles.
Wow. And
so like you can learn and interact with anyone if you want to, and it's to the point now. Like, I had a Chromebook. It was $150 computer. Computers are cheaper than TVs, and TVs are cheap now. So I like to think that there are so many opportunities and so many different ways for a person to kind of escape their situation or make moves that, if someone wants it and believes in them, so they get, that's the hard part, getting someone to kind of believe in you.
Absolutely.
But or believing in yourself, one or the other. If they get those things, I think there are way more options than even when I was right. a kid or at that age, which was just 20 years ago.
Right. So you're old enough to remember being 35 when the internet was around when you were very young, but it was slow. Am I right? Am I got the time frame about right there?
I think you bumped me up maybe 10 years because we didn't have. There was no. When did the internet start being a thing?
Like a 95, 96, 96.
Yeah, so I went to high school in 98.
Okay.
So okay.
Okay.
That's when like it was a thing. I remember like you went to the library to like use it in school like and then like you had dial up and
dial up
DSL all that right. There were things okay.
Yep.
But there was no social media.
No.
You know,
MySpace came along a couple of years later, but it was archaic.
When I was in college, they used to tell us in high school just as I don't think anyone actually said it, was just up somewhere. What was the old thing? It said half the jobs you guys are gonna have don't exist yet.
Right.
Remember hearing that? There are phrases that are just common in my lexicon. Influencer, search engine optimization, lead generation, data science. These weren't things.
No,
right?
Not at all.
Now though, they're like legit demand, and if you can do them, you have a great life.
It was almost back then for those who are listening or watching that are too young to really appreciate it. We were just hoping that the dial-up connection was going to stay on, right?
When someone, you couldn't use the phone and be on the internet at the same time. And now kids are like, "What's a landline?"
They're crying bloody murder if the Wi-Fi goes down, right? Or if the Wi-Fi password changes.
Louis C.K. has that joke about people who get pissed off when a text message takes too long. And it's like, do you understand that this thing has to go to space and then come all the way back down?
There's probably a lot of truth to that.
all the way up and down, but it's true. And we live in the future. We live in, to put it in perspective, I remember seeing this drawing from an artist in the 1900s who imagined a world where we had instant, we could talk to anyone, anywhere, and
instant gratification.
And the drawing was a series of these like telescopes that like reached over into other people's rooftops, and you went up and you had a string connected to the can, and that's how you sent sound and everything. Because because we're so advanced that even 100 years ago, like the science fiction couldn't create this world
what we have.
And now, it's like magic. I tell people all the time, this stuff is like magic.
And we're so spoiled. I'm 20 years beyond your age, where, Ed, I will tell you, in junior high school, if you used the worst computer, no one knew what you were talking about. It was I'm so old. When I was graduating high school in '83, computers had just started to kind of get into the school system, and you used to take a phone receiver and you used to put it in this device that had two cups in it, these two plastic cups, and you'd connect the phone receiver to the talking part and to the listening part, and that would interact with some mainframe computer at Robert Morris College and make all these ungodly noises, like as it was connecting, and you would sit like back in the third row watching someone do that in amazement, right? And then on their screen would pop up these lines of code, which we didn't know what they were, but it was amazing that was coming through the phone line. Right. This is '83. When I think of that, compared to today, when I go home, click on Google, and it's already connected to
not only is it connected, it knows what you're looking for. Like you go to type some words and it fills everything in, and you're like, what in the world happened? How is that possible? But this is where we're at.
Long leap from there to there. No, it's a lot of years. I'm dating myself, but it's a big leap.
I'm very, once again, I while I've done a lot, I never forget that I'm fortunate. Warren Buffett talks about this all the time. He talks about the ovarian lottery, and the idea is that if you don't, he says, I'll pose you a scenario. If you don't like your life, you can go restart and get another one. All right. But you don't know what time period you're going to be born in. You don't know what
where you're going to land.
Time, where, whatever socioeconomic situation will be put on you. You don't know what race you'll be put.
Right.
So I think I was like, I'm born now. I was born in '85 in America.
Land of opportunity.
What a great win. I could have been born in, 1848 in Mississippi as a black guy,
Right.
So who knows? But I'm happy, man.
Or we could have been born like in the year 300.
Oh, right.
The lifespan goes to 28 years old and you're expected to die at 28. It's crazy.
It's just like the poor people of today live better than the kings of yesteryear.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to, I think, continue to happen. And hopefully, I think at some point in time, and it's a whole different discussion, but I think that we will eradicate poverty. We will eradicate some of the bigger diseases in this country. Technology will pull us kicking and screaming in that direction.
Yeah, like I tell my mom all the time, I say, look, you're going to probably live till 80 whether you want to or not. Like, I mean, if you're not, like, looking at your health, like, you're not dead yet, mostly because technology, I mean, you're here. You're here. My mom's on dialysis. That's a crazy concept to me. And that's not
sure
even
is.
that, like, new of a technology. But that's insane. They can filter your bloodstream and then put the blood back, man. Come on. That's great. And so in case your kidneys fail, you're good. In case your heart decides to just go bye-bye, well, if you get the pacemaker put in, it'll just start
God bless
it up
technology,
again.
pal. God bless it. We're living in enchanted times. We are. I don't think... Would you not agree that sometimes the human condition causes us all to say, why me? Why me? Well, look at this problem. Look at that problem. But in reality, when we step back and we look, we're really in enchanted times.
Perspective is everything. I have always been a big proponent and practitioner of gratitude. I always ask myself when something goes wrong, my immediate reaction is, could this be worse? And the answer is always yes, because I'm not dead and I'm not in prison, which means I have an ability to fix the situation.
Right.
So I never walk away going, oh man, woe's me. I'm always like, how can we solve this? How can we fix this? How can I get back and get ahead? Is this as bad as what someone else is going through? Even at this time period, man, we're caught up in our issues, but there's still tons of parts of Africa, right, and parts of Asia that are a mess. People, the cartels are still doing what the cartels do in Mexico. And we still have it so good. Now, that doesn't mean we should just go, oh, yeah, it's good, let it be. It's a balancing act. You have to simultaneously want better, but be content with what you have.
Yeah, it's a balancing act.
Those are almost contradictory statements, but I don't think so. And I think it's because of the way we're trained to look at contentment. We look at being happy and we go, why would we ever try to improve this? And that's because we think happiness is an optimized state, and in reality it's like, I call happiness a derivative of improvement.
Right.
If you were trying to get yourself a little better, make some more moves, some more money, improve your health, whatever, right, start a new relationship, etc., then that's a positive slope, and your rate of change is how happy you're gonna be. But the thing is, if you stop improving, you stop being happy, because it's a product of your rate of change. What is implied in that is that when you improve, that is but almost by definition, you have to face some difficulty. And so you have to keep, working out is the easiest example, right? If you tear the muscles, it's painful. It's easier to just sit on the couch and BS.
Sure.
But over time, you'll eventually pay the price for that.
No question.
and you will wonder. Then you'll be asking yourself, could this be worse? I mean, sure, you could be dead, but now,
Right.
but it was also preventable,
Right.
and everything is like that. And I think if you can always work on being better, but also be able to step back and go, this is a really great, happy life and a happy time.
So you're dealing from an area of appreciation. Am I hearing that right? Like,
Absolutely.
As you're moving forward.
Every day I wake up and I'm just happy. I go and I put my coffee on.
It shows, my friend.
Man, I have some coffee. I'm a happy guy. Let me sit and enjoy this coffee. Or I can pull some bacon out the fridge. Okay, I'm good, but I have to keep working because I understand. I know that this is a temporary, unstable state,
Right.
and I have to continually make moves and make progress. Otherwise, I'm gonna be unhappy one day.
Right.
It's like when everything was happening with COVID, right? There's a nice real life example. I was saying that my girlfriend is involved in travel, so her income is dried up because no one's traveling, right? At the same time, right, I had just had a great sale, made like $50K in a week, and I was like, okay, I know what my future goals are. Let me invest in upgrading my website and upgrading the visual that goes along with it. It was a $30,000 investment I had just put down when everything started drying up, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be like rough if I don't do something. Okay, we were talking about that focus moment, that thing. Mm-hmm. All the content creators kind of went on a rally around because it happened, and then they found out they could do more and be more. That's what happened to me. So I got these pressures. I'm looking. I'm going, okay. Well, this is, if I don't do anything, I'm gonna find myself in a very uncomfortable position.
Right.
In 1 to 3 months. Let me step it up a notch, and as a result, I've done better than I ever had done before, and set a new standard for myself. Same thing with like we were talking before the show when I went back to school. I mean, because all this happened at the end of 2013. I have a tattoo when I got sober.
Yeah,
I got sober, went back to school. My pro career is going on, all that, right? I remember the flack I caught. And just then I was also unsure of the decision myself, but I said I looked at my life and I was like, all right, I'm 28 right now. I'm going to turn 33 one day, God willing. Am I going to turn 33 with more options, or am I going to turn 33 with fewer options? Like I'm able to look at the right and the wrong and go, okay, what are we going to do here?
Right.
And so I did a hard shift. I cut out the bad habits. I said I need to make sure that when boxing is over, I'm going to go as far as I can in boxing, but when boxing is over, I would like to not be very uncomfortable. I'm too intelligent to suffer unnecessarily. Like I can sit here and see this, now I have to go do something with it. Right. What good is strategic vision if you're not gonna tactically execute to support it? Same idea, So it's this whole, like, you got to be able to step back, detached, and be able to look at your situation and take from it the positive and look at it, but also prepare. People. I think people get too caught up in how they feel presently, and they forget that feelings are very temporary. Not very temporary. They're fleeting. Yes. My favorite word is ephemeral. I don't know where I learned that, but fleeting.
It's a big word, like gymnasium.
but they don't last. But and I don't even think they're supposed to last. I'm not the guy that's going to tell you to chase happiness. I'm going to tell you to chase progress and the side effect, the derivative, the positive externality, as they say in economics, of happiness, or rather of progress, is happiness. You can't chase happiness. Otherwise, you just sit around and smoke crack all day or something. Those guys, like, when they're high, they're happy, but and then they got to keep chasing it.
Right. Before we go too far in the area that I really want to go with you, which has to do with your just daily grind of what you do in the motivational front and just your mantras for living. We're going to get there. That's the juice of the show. But I don't want to gloss over boxing. Let's talk a little bit about boxing. Where did you first become exposed to boxing, and when did you determine, hey, this might be for me?
So I have no idea how like typical my story is. Everyone has a different way at how they ended up in the gym, I think. And for me, I was 22 when I first walked into the gym, and I remember being from 18 to 22, I was dating this girl, and I had dropped out of school.
This is like in 2007, 2008, somewhere in there?
18, about right? It would have been 2003, 4 to 2007, 8, yeah.
All right.
But to make this story make sense, you got to know my first time at college, I failed out. Like when I was 18, I wasn't emotionally ready. I went and really immediately took to the booze and the partying and the lifestyle and the girls and all that.
You weren't alone.
Nah. So when I felt out, I simultaneously left and started to rail against college and how useless it was. I still my opinion has changed just a little, but more or less, I still have the same opinion. The difference now is that I have a degree, so it kind of carries some weight when I say, and not just a slouch degree either.
Right.
But at that time, I'm doing these rants always, and this was foolish to do around the girl's mother because she was a professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and if I say specifically, you could look her up, but I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And she said one day, she goes, "Okay, let's pretend you're correct. That college is pointless. Well, what have you done for 4 years other than eat my food? Where's your sweat equity?" Right. I don't know if she said that, but in my mind, I always interpreted that because that's how I took it.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this person. I mean, she right. I mean, she threw me out the house, and I cried, whatever. Right. But she had a point. She's like, where have I put my sweat equity at that can show I've been doing something on this planet?
Got it.
And so I was like, all right. So I started looking for things that were going to be relatively easy to get into. I couldn't afford school and really wasn't interested, didn't know what I wanted to do. Mainly because, like, anything that was worthwhile had a strong mathematic component, and I felt I did not have the confidence whatsoever to do math.
At that time.
At that time. And I had, I was coming off of failing a bunch of math classes in high school. It was bad. So I was looking, and YouTube was just coming up, back to our internet discussion, and I was, looking at videos of fights, and I said, hey, that looks cool. I can do that.
Just by seeing fights on YouTube? That's
I mean, I was always kind of curious about it, but if you want to talk about, like, the thing that sparked, look, it was either that or the military. Because I was really, and I said, okay, the military is a bit more restrictive, and
a bit more,
and I don't know exactly what the future holds yet, but I've always had a bit of a strategic mind, and I said, but having the flexibility options, and we'll just just see where this goes, and this might be cooler too. So I went and tried it out, but I had the attitude always of, I'm either gonna get beat out of boxing, like they're gonna like just whoop my ass. I'm gonna be so bad that like nothing's gonna work. Or I'm gonna get injured, but I wasn't gonna quit.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to have some early success, and the early success always, should anyhow, always keep you around, and it did just that for me. And I just kept getting better and better and better, and I stuck with it. And then once it became like, because it was always a serious endeavor. Like I don't know how to go into things thinking, I'm just gonna try this out and see, right? It was like, okay, we're gonna go as far as we can, and I did that. and I just kept getting better. And I applied the skills that I naturally have, or talents I naturally have, which is strategic thinking, to kind of make the correct moves, and align myself with the best kind of places. Got some lucky breaks, some things that'll probably never happen again for anyone happened to me. And so I had a great amateur career. Like they were doing this program in California called All American Heavyweights. And the whole goal of the program was to take former Division I athletes, and turn them into professional, and turn them into boxers. I mean, eventually have them win like a big amateur competition, like the Olympics, and then turn them professional and profit from them. I am neither a former Division I athlete. Nor did I read, they had minimums on our site for applying, like 6'3". They wanted you to be at least 6'3". I'm 6'1". At least like 240 pounds. I was like 230 at the time, and I think I was over the age
sounds like
limit.
a lineman almost.
Oh, these guys were. I mean, they had former basketball players and football players there. But I ended up, I got into this program, and then not because I knew it existed and applied, but because when I won the Pennsylvania State Golden Glove in 2011. You go to the Nationals. The Nationals that year were in Indianapolis, Indiana. Go there, and in my first draw, this story is the story I tell. When I want to make the point that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. I prepared like, whoa. I was like, I trained my ass off thinking I was going to win this thing. Everyone goes to it thinking they're going to do that, and that's the preparation. The opportunity, the first draw for me, round 1, was California's champion, a guy by the name of Dominic Brazil, who went on to represent us in the 2012 London Olympics, a 2-time challenger for the heavyweight title, once against Anthony Joshua, and then again against Deontay Wilder. I drew him in the first round, and I beat him. And then I went on to have another victory in the tournament and lost in the third day. But then they saw that and they wanted to bring me out. They said, hey, why don't you come out, see how you like it, see you fit in. I ended up outlasting everyone out there until the very end. When there were 4 other guys with me left by the time it ended 2 years. And it ended because when Dominic did finally make the Olympic team, they achieved their goal, he left them. And with him went the investors on money in the program kind of fell apart. But I ended up who ended up being left? It was me, and I just posted this picture on my newest blog post. It was me, Dominic Brazil, a guy named John Hamm, who's no longer fighting, a guy named George Favah, who's no longer fighting, and another one, Charles Martin, who was the who was heavyweight champion for a moment. He's still fighting today. So those kind of opportunities to come when started from like no athletic ability whatsoever, in my opinion anyhow, to get into that level. And it really, that's a lucky break. Like that program will never happen again. They were paying for my apartment and giving me a stipend every month. It was great. And then because I'm thinking forward, right? I just think about some of the things I did. I'm making like $3,000 a month out there with no bills. Okay, so I said, what am I going to do with this money? I started paying off an old student debt because I said at some point I'm going to need a car. And I can't afford, because at this point I had gone through enough cars to know that generally speaking, the more you pay, the more you pay up front, or the greater the value of the car, the fewer problems you're gonna have, problems tend to add up. And I was like, okay, I don't want these surprise problems. What's the best thing I can do? So I started using my paycheck, like some points, 90% of it, because I didn't have any other bills, on an old student loan, and doing that allowed me to build just enough credit to where I was able to get a car. That ended up lasting me. I got that car in 2012, and I drove it across the country, moved back from LA to Pittsburgh when the program dissolved, and it lasted me. I think I put 130,000 miles on it.
That's a good lesson.
And the only reason why I got rid of it is because on Cinco de Mayo of 2018, somebody T-boned me. Fortunately, I was okay, like no problem. but great, right? But so because I'm making all these steps and making these small moves, my insurance totaled me out. It was only worth like $2,000 at that point, and went and got another car. The car I drove up into.
Right.
But yeah, that event though, just life changing, and it's one of those watershed moments when we talk about like things make a difference. Getting selected for that program because what that does is not just as an amateur does that have me because I won my national title out there. That's how I did that. But also now I've got this resume stick for when I go look for a promoter as a professional, and it helps me land the promotion with Rock Nation Sports when I was with them.
So was that the end of the amateur part of your career? Did you go pro from that point?
I had like one when I came back from LA. I think I had one amateur fight, and then I said, "All right, it's time to go pro."
You only lost one fight, is that correct? You've only lost one pro fight.
Yeah, but professional boxing is like it's a hard way to earn a hard living. Have you ever heard of the poker player Amarillo Slim? He's got a great saying. He goes, "Poker is a hard way to earn an easy living." And when I heard that, I said, "Okay,
applies to boxing too."
Right. Well, with a slight change, boxing is a hard way to earn a hard living. People severely overestimate how much money there is in boxing because
everybody does.
Because all they see
Floyd Mayweather with two fistfuls of $100 bills.
They see the top 1 or 2%, who makes all this money. But the reality is this: most guys, okay, if you're not signed with somebody, you are not making more than $1,000 unless you sell that much in tickets. And if you sell that much in tickets to make more than $1,000, you're doing pretty good, I think. You're probably more popular than you are good. As weird as that sounds.
Which is probably not good in boxing.
Well,
long term.
Well, okay, right, long term, because it's a business, and right. You understand it's a business. Then you start seeing, okay, well, where does the money come in? What's the product?
Right.
Okay, and you can't make big money until you get on TV. So because at that point, then you can get more eyes on it. When you just have a local show, you are limited to the capacity
right.
of the people who come, and unless you're selling rights on the internet, like some smart promoters have started to do, but you need a guy that can do that, or you need a marketing machine behind it. You're pretty much not going to be able to clear. You just can't clear that much money. You probably can't do more than like $20,000 on a show in terms of gate. Not enough people, not big enough draws. You get the network involved, you get more odds, and you get the network put money behind it, so they have programming behind it. But here's the kicker. That some people don't know. When you watch a fight on TV, you are seeing, okay, so boxing cards, that's like the night of the fight, all the fights on the card. Yeah. You are seeing 3 or 4. The reality is, there was like 12 fights. Yeah. That's just the ones they put on TV. Yeah. Okay, and then the ones they put on TV, they got the headliner who realistically is taking like 90% of the what's available to pay the fighters, and then everything else is split down. And
I get it.
It's not like the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball or the National Hockey League where there's so much money on merch because what they've done in those sports is correct, right? Is what they should have done, but boxing is unique. Dana White learned, and the UFC is a bit better at this than boxing. Is that the product? What the other sports is the sport, not the individual. So the NHL and Major League Baseball and all that, they're gonna have people are watching the sport. People are gonna come and go. And that's probably not going to affect ticket sales and viewership beyond a certain
Because it's the entity there.
Right.
Okay.
Not so much in sports. People don't know this about boxing either. Anybody can declare themselves a pro. You can just go, I'm a pro. I'm going to go and register and get my pro license. Now, when you do that, you can't ever fight amateur again.
Got it.
But yeah, right. And no one is going to take you seriously because where'd you learn to fight? You're going to end up with a backwards record. You're going to have 20 wins and 13 losses. And then while that's better than 500, you can't sell that. No one's interested. You're going to be used as an opponent to build up guys that they have. And these matchmakers they're so smart. They're so good. And they know their craft. So very rarely is someone going to
surprise them.
Yeah. And be like,
where does this guy come from?
Yeah, and if you're that good, they're not going to let you fight their god if they've put the money and investment into where you can't. So it's a really interesting sport. But I bring all this up to go. A lot of people ask me, they go, "You only lost one fight. Why'd you stop fighting?" Well, okay. I was trying to come back and do a fight, got injured. But here's the thing, right? The most I made, I was supposed to make $12,500 or $12,500 for a fight. That's before everybody gets their cut, like Uncle Sam and the trainers. Didn't make that, made a little less, and they still got their cut. I make that almost passively per month. Like that, and that's if I do nothing. If I go to sleep for 3 days, wait. So. And I gotta write and build, but I get to do that, and I get to do that without being risking having my balance all jacked injury. Up, being injured, the opportunity cost. I can travel and leave whenever I want to and come back. I don't have to worry about being in a gym 20, 30 hours a week.
Physical cost.
Yeah, it's just there's just more money for less damage made. Sure. I really don't think people think you fight for glory or you fight for money. People gonna find out real fast when they get involved. Not really a lot of money. Certainly more money than I think the average fighter would make doing other things. Like remember, most fighters aren't going, okay, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to go right on the internet or take a job on Wall Street with my physics degree calculating this stuff? Am I going to go to grad school? I just had other options. More profitable, less painful options, and that is by design.
And you are wise enough to recognize that.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah, and then now, well, sort of. When I was trying to continue fighting, my coach, he said to me, he's like, well, what are you doing? You don't have to do this anymore. You do realize that, right? Like, I see everything you're doing.
Right.
And it makes a good point because he knows the game. If it was, and I know it's an authentic opinion because my record, someone will probably pay $30,000 to have me go and put me in a fight where they think I have a chance, or rather they don't think I have a chance to win, but the record is sellable. I'm sellable. But he said, "What are you doing? You don't need to be here. You don't need to take this injury, this punishment, this risk. You have won the game." And it was good. And I remember the last injury I got, and I had the conversation with my coach, and he's just like, what are you doing? You don't need to do this anymore. So I as a man, you want to go and continue to do this thing. Practically speaking, I get everything times 10 that I get from boxing. I can work out whenever I want to.
Right.
I'm way more known now. So if fame was an issue, I get that.
Right.
Way more money now than when I fought. So I can leave that. In other words, I chose
chose a different life.
I chose a better career path.
Right.
Right. And I always know because it's funny. No one who fought ever asked me why'd I stop fighting, because they know. I can always tell. I said that to a guy. Every now and then I'll get that exact question,
really
in the DM, like, really liking your content, but I just gotta know, man, you only lost one fight. Why'd you stop fighting? And it's to the point now where I go, I'm gonna take an edge. I'm gonna just throw this out here. I'm going to guess you haven't fought. Don't take it the wrong way. I'll answer your question, but I'm just going to guess you've never fought. Because the only people that ask that question, looking at everything I'm doing now,
right,
compared to fighting, because anyone fighting looks because they immediately get it. They're like, well, I wouldn't do it either. It's a hard life.
It's a brutal sport.
Brutal sport, and unlike all the other sports, no one cares, man. Like the fight machine chews you up and spits you out for entertainment.
Right.
It's very much a gladiator sport. You don't get paid nearly enough to justify the damage you take. Mm-hmm. And there's no pension for boxers, man. There's nothing sitting around to hand you at the end. No one's going to take care of your medical issues. Look, there's like a blanket insurance policy,
right,
for to hold a fight, like by law, and any injury I sustain during the fight, they have to deal with and covered by that policy. But like if I remember, I had surgery to repair a broken orbital floor. I sustained in sparring when I was an amateur.
Okay.
That would have been incredibly expensive.
I bet.
I got lucky because I was in that program in LA and they had to pay us and treat us like employees by the law. So which meant that we were covered under health insurance.
Right.
So that they covered the whole thing. But if I had just got that in my regular old gym over here in Pittsburgh, I'd have a big problem. Yeah, and a lot of fighters ain't got insurance. I know I fought for a while without insurance, which is unbelievably fool. Like in retrospect, I'm like, man, that's really stupid. like that's so risky. You can't I couldn't get life insurance when I fought.
Right.
At least without it being like super expensive.
Right.
So to do this thing without health insurance is crazy.
Were you was professional fighting done for you in 2014? Was it 2015?
My
when
last
was it?
fight was 2016.
Okay,
December 16th, I think, 2016.
Okay. Now, had you already started to go back to school at Duquesne University before that?
So the way that timing worked out, I actually took that semester off to focus on boxing.
Okay.
Right? And then I always joke and say, look what good that did. I lost my first fight focusing full time. Right. And then I had one more fight though in the draw, and I said okay. And at that point I was getting tired of it. I mean I was getting tired of it because there comes a point where you're like, at least for me, I'm like, okay, I'm in school, I'm busting my ass, I'm exhausted. At this point, it was almost 3 years of this kind of constant, because I finished my degree as quickly as I think you could, because there was a period for 2 years where I was in school, I was doing at least 16 credits for...
Well, you weren't taking lightweight curriculum either.
Right. And fighting was getting harder. School was getting harder. Everything was getting more difficult, and I was getting exhausted. And I said, "Okay, looking at long term, I know this fight thing. I was starting to become aware of my limitations, like physically, because I'm short for a heavyweight and small. And I think part of me wanted to take a break, but or even when I didn't have a break, but that break that I did take." That one semester break that I took from school was like, okay, cool. That turned out to be what it was. But I said, okay, I got all this money in, I got all this time invested. Let me go finish my degree, because I could only take, I think, a semester off before I lost my scholarship. So I needed to go back that semester anyway.
Right.
And so I went back, and now unless I started getting fights for like 50 and 100,000, I'm like, okay, but that didn't happen.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, let me get back to school and finish this, take some time off to recover. And then it was easy. At this point I had lost and then had a draw, so I was like, oh, well, like you want to talk about like a perfect way out? Because here's the thing that happened. That fight that I lost, we actually ended up negotiating a second fight because of some of the things that were going on. They felt it was right to give us a second fight, and And my manager actually said to me, he's like, okay, you lost, so you need to fight again, and you need to fight an easy guy, because if you have 2 losses in a row, that's going to make it very hard to move and market you. So I took that fight in December. I didn't want to take it. I was all kind of stressed because I'm working it, because that was the last job I had. I got a quick job delivering packages for Amazon. Right. That's another type of misery in and of itself. But I take this fight, and I fight to a draw.
Okay.
And you want to talk about, like, that's the perfect way out, because if I win, it doesn't make any sense for me to not fight again. And if I lose, it doesn't make sense for me to fight again. But for 2 different, it's different. It makes sense for me to fight or not fight. But a draw, like, freezes me in time.
Got it.
And I'm like, all right, out. And I leave, and then I actually had an offer for a pretty decent fight in New Zealand that I probably would have won, but then I got injured sparring, and that was the injury where but that was after I took the year off. Like, I was training for that fight in 2018 when I got injured. The whole 2017, I didn't even look at a boxing, and my balance was all kinds of messed up. Man.
Okay.
I didn't realize how, because you're always training. And you get hit sparring, and then you walk it off, and then eventually you're like, oh, I think those were concussions. And then, because people think a concussion is like this severe acute contact, or the result of severe acute contact or trauma with your head. But a lot of times it can be from, like, chronic, I don't want to say like low impact hits, because they're hits to the head, but things that you think you can just walk off and you're good with, and whether it's my genetics, and I'm not that good at taking hits to the head, or finally I took enough and it was time to bow out. And
what's an unnatural act,
right? Like very much so,
completely right, with any fighter. It's not you don't come out of the womb, in the course of your quote unquote normal life, expect to get body blows to the head.
Right. It's hard. Well, man, I don't know. I think about every time, every now and then I'll entertain fighting again, and I'll
every
watch
fighter
it.
Says that,
and then I'll watch. The difference is, right, I'll watch a fight and I'll go, oh man, that's right. And he had to train like at my level of conditioning and being in shape. It'd take me about eight weeks of dedication to be ready to fight. But that's dedication. That's 30, 40 hours a week that I'm giving up, that I could be using to produce a piece of content, run a cell, do something. Do some interviews. I don't know. Like there's
capitalism won out, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, and it's not like it was a close race either. Like, let's not. It wasn't neck and neck. This was very much. Here's one path, and this path is a path of freedom and enjoyment and really fulfillment, the way I figure I want to be fulfilled.
Right.
That's the other thing, man. I get a lot out of creating content that people read and they have a positive reaction to, and they feel like it's changed something in their life. Boxing is cool, but it's a very selfish act. I go, I fight. I am hoisted up in glory, or I'm in shame and defeat. But other than like studying what to do and what not to do from a technical standpoint, I don't really make an impact. And for some weird reason, I'm really bothered, or not bothered. I'm aware of the impact of the things that I do. Like, for example, I was telling somebody, they're like, so what's next for you? I said, well, look, to be honest with you, I want to go back to school, and I want to study either traumatic brain injuries or meteorology. I'm really interested in either atmospheric science or the way impact affects our ability to kind of think and reason, and there's the personal interest in that. But like, if I was sitting around creating content in 10 years still and just doing that, that's a failure to me. and it's a
Really?
it's a failure because I can do more, and I can contribute to humanity more. I've got gifts, and I think a person who has the ability but to make a difference but doesn't, that's a real disrespect of the. If you want to say it's a gift, okay, that's fine too. But at the end of the day, it was a certain combination of genetics plus timing and maybe some experiences that gave you a certain perspective or a bit of ability. And I personally like my own moral code is just that I feel like if I have that, and I do, I should use it to affect some change in, or like boxing wasn't going to do anything. I eventually switched to studying physics outside of just pure math because I was like, okay, I'm not sure where this is going to go, but I want to be able to do something in the world. And while like the second book I self-published, Sober Letters to My Drunken Self, that was written because I wanted to give something back to people and help people dealing with addiction. Now, at the end of the day, I'm still a capitalist. I understand that I need to like make sure I eat, but after that, if I can do that in a way that is going to make the world a better place, that's a win. And it's just like, I just don't feel like. I like boxing. It's my hobby, right? At that point,
Got it.
If you want to, that's the best category to put it in. I can never seriously be like, oh, I box. Like that'd be, that's cool.
Not a vocation for you anymore.
Like that's cool for the ego.
Got it.
But in terms of what have I done for the world with it? Who knows, right?
Do you are you of the belief that the best leadership comes from experience?
Absolutely. I don't know how one could lead without without the experience, without being in the trenches, because my idea of being a leader is someone who connects with the person, connects and gets more out of them than they could out of themselves. And I think the way you do that is you have to demonstrate what's possible, and that means either you've done it or you're on the front lines with them. I'm a big believer in leading from the front, not from the back. You would never ask of your subordinates what you would not do yourself.
Did you learn that in the military, or did you always have that?
That's just the thing I picked up. The military is very much a functional serve. I learned a lot about myself, but probably not what they intended me to learn.
Okay.
In fact, it's funny when I decided I was gonna go to the military, they make you take the ASVAB, right? And did already don't know ASVAB, and then there's another test, and I don't know what it is, but I know they're testing. I don't remember what it's called, but they're testing like your ability to like follow orders or something like that. Anyhow, point is I failed it, right? I failed about 2 points. I from a personality perspective am not military material.
Okay.
They looked at my ASVAB though, and they said we are going to let this one slide, right? And I didn't realize the implication of that. Like I just figured, okay. Anyone who answered honestly would be able to like would not be put in. And I was probably, it's a good test because I was trying to like not mess up because I wanted to, because I needed to be in. I needed to help.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess like part of being really good at the military is you just kind of gotta accept what people say to you and go with it, man. I don't know if it's because I enrolled at 28 or whatever. Like I'm smart. Like I realize I gotta shut up. Like I understand that, and I'm not gonna be the adult center trying to argue with my superiors, like, because that would be a bad example to set in general.
Okay.
And it would just look bad on me. Like yeah, that's why you're in the military at 28, because you're a piece of shit who can't figure this out. You got no respect. Like so I'm not gonna argue. But there were some instances where like I knew the right answer was to bite my tongue. Like, I knew this. I just couldn't do it. And like, and there were some things I just couldn't, like I could like, I couldn't logic it. That was what it was. Because look, if it makes sense to me, whether I like it or not, I just go with it.
Got it.
I couldn't logic the things. And I think, like, to me, that seems like a valuable trait, to be able to think on your own.
Agreed.
Right. But apparently, like, one of the jokes is, like, you know, if the military wanted you to have your own opinion, they had to sign it to you. Like, and I remember how they some of the ways we handled some things. I was like, okay, now I see why I failed this test, because I like it was very hard for me. Like it was like the hardest act I've ever put myself through to not have certain arguments and just go because they're my superiors. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm not going to win the argument.
Got it.
You know, that didn't mean I couldn't try. And I was like, but I let it go.
I get it,
man. But no, I didn't learn the idea of leadership. Oh, there. That's not to say there aren't great leaders. I don't want to like paint that picture.
Right.
But that is intrinsic, I guess.
Yeah.
To how I yeah, I mean, I don't know where I picked that up, but it feels like it's always been there. I know there was probably some influence or someone I learned it from, but I don't remember the moment that made the most sense to me. I just don't remember ever not thinking that way.
Okay.
So that's why I say it's intrinsic. So, but you have to be willing to do the thing that you want people to do. Mm-hmm. And it helps if you've done it and had some experience. I had a kid I was helping get ready for the AP calculus exam, and at this point, I'm like really confident in my math abilities, and I've taken 3 levels of calc and all the math you got to take for a physics degree. I feel good about my math. But what I said to her is, I said, you got to understand something. I have failed calculus 3 times and taken it 4. I already know where you're going to mess up. I already know, even before you know. But I also know how to fix it. So all you got to do is, you just got to follow my lead, man. And we're going to get through this. That is very important to me. That kind of, I have been here. Mm-hmm. And so I can help you get there kind of leadership.
Leadership from a position of experience.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Because otherwise, I mean, I think about like, okay, what makes me trust somebody? And trust someone's opinion. Well, I prefer if they have some experience. Megan, look, I don't care if you're right or wrong because I understand that outcomes are very much a function of probability, and all you can do is kind of put the odds in your favor, and you do that by a lot of experience. Not so much a lot of thinking, but a lot of experience, what's happened. So I don't care right or wrong, but I really prefer that you have been right or wrong a few times before. I don't want to be the guinea pig.
Got it.
And so I, that and that's how every place is set up. Everything that is remotely serious. Think about your doctor. Your doctor, he's not just coming in. Even if you're his first surgery, you're not really his first.
Right.
He's just just the first one he's in charge of. But he's done tons, right?
Right.
Of
experience is everything in medicine, right? I mean, it's everything. Experience is everything. Tons
of rotations, tons of repetitions. Right. You get it somewhere, as long as that's the whole idea, like whole apprenticeship system that we seem to be moving away from. Is like, you come in and you learn with this person, and you shadow and you subdue your ego, and you just learn and listen. And that's it. And then eventually you've made some moves. You've gone. Eventually, because you failed enough times. You can feel when something's right.
Right.
You can feel when something's wrong.
Right. Help me get a total scope view of your education. So you talked about failing your first time at college. I'm guessing in 2003, 4, 5, that era.
Yep.
Is that right? And then you go on this life journey. At what year did you decide, and what were you doing at that time when you said, I'm going to go back and finish what I started and go on another journey, and this time it's going to be educational? And did you think it was going to last that long and be that involved?
Finish what I started. It's funny you say that because there was nothing to finish. Look,
there's an honest statement.
I went to school when I was 18.
Okay.
I went to college like they tell every 18-year-old to do.
You don't have a choice.
It just made sense, right?
Right. Of course.
Was not
made
ready.
sense to somebody. Maybe not us. Made sense to somebody.
Was not ready. Didn't really know. Just kind of follow on the tide. You know, and then I would not go back to school again until I was 28. That's when I took. Well, okay, you want to be technical about it? 27, but like
2011, 2012,
2013. Oh wow, how old was I?
We're getting old, pal. 2013.
Well, 2014. So
Okay.
6 years ago. So wow, 20. Yeah, okay. So I was 28 when I took my first class.
Okay.
But that January, my birthday's in February, so
Okay.
like that's why it's.
And you still were boxing at that time.
Yeah, still
Okay.
professional boxing. So, what I was doing though when I decided to go back to school was I was working at T-Mobile. At this point in time, the boxing program out in California is over. I'm back.
Right.
I'm realizing I don't have any. Like my resume is trash, man. There's nothing I can do, and all I know at this time is the type of jobs or income I want. They are a function of a college degree, and not just any college degree. Like I did a lot of research, and I just kept coming back, and I was trying to avoid it, but it just kept coming back to math. All the highest earning jobs all had
Absolutely.
math in them. The jobs with the highest satisfaction
Right.
had math in them. They all had math. So I said, okay, looks like it's math, right? And I was originally going to go to school for math. We'll get to what made me change my mind later.
Right.
But what I was doing is I was working at T-Mobile. And what they led me to make this decision and figure out how to get this done is some customers came in. It's like 8:30. We closed at 9. This is key. It's probably more like 8:45. And the policy of the store is you can't kick somebody out
Right.
if they're in before closing. Now you can keep someone from coming in at 9:01.
Right.
But if they want to come in at 8:59, you got to let them in.
You're stuck.
And you can't kick them out, right? They can ask if we're closing. Now you know people say we're about to close, whatever, right? But like if you want to be like real hard up about it, yeah, you can't. They can exercise that right to stay in the store. Well, someone came in and they ran, and I was a good salesperson, and I thought, wow, I'm about to get a great commission, and they didn't buy anything, and I was there till like 10 o'clock, and I said, this is stupid. I was so angry. I missed a party, and I was like out of money too, and I was just like, this has got to change because what's the future of this? I don't want to be a manager at this store. I want more options in my life. Let's start figuring out how to do this. And it just coming back to, I was like, okay, I got to enlist, and I enlisted in the National Guard because the goal was to go to school. I didn't go active duty because I wanted to keep boxing and I wanted to go to school. I said, okay, if I only got to drill, and I remember we're like just sitting there because this is how I think. I was like, all right, if I only got to drill once a month and 2 weekends a year, as long as I don't have a fight that weekend, I'll be okay. And then I found out that you can sometimes actually make up your drill doing other tasks. Like the week, I was like, all right, I'm good, I'm in.
Okay.
So it worked. So yeah, that's what I did, man. And I went back. I went enlisted January 4th, 2013. Left for basic training June 4th. And really, I wanted to leave as soon as possible, but that didn't work for the MOS that I chose, the military occupational specialty.
Okay.
Well, little did I know that the ability to not leave as quickly as possible changed my life in so many ways.
Okay.
That extra 3 months, one that allowed me to like really solidify the relationship with the woman I'm with now. Because if I had left at the time I left, things were shaky, and it would not be where it is today. She would have just moved on and forgot about me. There's that. I ended up getting 3 professional fights before I left.
Okay.
Which is great. I met some other cool people too. In general, from the result of being around and being in boxing, it probably helped me. I got to do all of these things because I thought that because at the time it sucked, because I was running out of money too, so I needed to like get back. But no, it was really cool. It ended up working out that way. So my first class and everything, like when I got back from AIT and basic training, I was like, all right, let's quickly register for community college. And I went to, even though I live in Allegheny County, I went to Beaver County because. One, my boxing gym was in Beaver County, and I was able to use that address. Well, actually, no, not you. I was actually staying. I actually got an apartment there, staying there, or rather renting an old house with some roommates from my coach, and then I used that address for going to school at Beaver County Community College. And I went there because I had really messed up at Allegheny Community College, community college, because I tried to that story when I told that kid, I took calculus 3 times and failed. Yeah, so 2 of those 3 times were at Allegheny County, along with some other classes, because I wasn't ready to be there, and kept getting pulled off to do work and failing in class and forgetting stuff, and plus I just didn't know it well enough. And from that point, it was just a hustle and grind. I was like, no matter what, I'm going to do very well. And I did 60 credits or 59 credits in 18 months.
Wow.
Because it was like, just click, just moving.
That's hustling.
Because you have to. Because at this point, in my mind, I'm racing against time. I'm still racing against time. Now, I'm able to step back and kind of recognize that I have put a buffer between myself and where I could have been had I stayed on the path. Like imagine if I was too scared to enlist in the military, or too worried about missing fights or whatever. I was like too attached to my girlfriend or whatever and didn't go. I mean, I think about all the reasons why I couldn't have enlisted, but I said, no, I need to do this because this is going to lead to this, and I need to do that. So
you had a plan.
I had a plan, and I was like, and you want to talk about like, okay, so what did the other 3 fights do for me down the line? It brought me some attention, but not in a negative way. Like, because at that point when you have a professional fight, you show up on BoxRec, and then like every now and then like local publications will do stuff on you. Well, there was some stuff out there about me on the internet when I enlisted, and they found out what I did and who I was, and so they went and fact checked it like they should, and they there I am right there. They looked me up, and now at that point they're looking at me like, okay, we're going to make this yours to lose, pretty much. I don't go out. Once again, I'm smart enough to know just shut up and go. Like, very much like institutionalized. I'm like, all I got to do. Well, what do they say about prison? You only do 2 days: the day you go in and the day you get out. I was like, all I got to do is just show up and just keep going. And it's not like there's a test or anything. Just make it through. It's very easy. Like in that regard. So anybody who can't make it through basic training should probably question them. Like if it's not for a health reason, because all you got to do is show up. And But during that, there's there's one test, and there's one thing you got to do other than just show up. You have to shoot 23 out of 40 targets. Okay? I don't know what it is. I am not a good shot.
Okay. How'd that work out?
I had 3 tries, and I failed all 3 tries. Okay? Now, here's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to get recycled. And what recycling is they first of all, you don't even do the shooting test till week 6 of like week. Yeah. So basic training is 9 weeks. It's actually 9 weeks. Well, you're actually gone for 10, But the first week is reception where they're processing. You're giving you your shots, issuing your gear, all that, right?
Got it.
But you don't do shooting until like week 6. But if you don't pass shooting, you go all the way back to the next class coming through.
Okay.
And that would have been so detrimental to all of my plans.
Well, sure.
Because I had a timetable. They had one try. They were like, we're gonna take some people that have been doing well in other areas, and I was good, man. But I also had the extra kind of likability factor from the boxing.
Absolutely.
They gave me one more try. I had 4 tries instead of 3. On the 4th try, I got 23. I was like sweating bullets. It was hot that day too. It must have been like, because I wrote my girlfriend when it happened, and she, I said, tell me what the weather is on this day. It was like 97, man. Oof. We were out. It was hot, and wasn't a cloud in the sky. We were at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and I passed, and I was just like, all I gotta do is just keep going. I won't get recycled. Nothing. So happy. Like thinking about it. That makes it good because here I am like staring down. If I was like, is they call him a shitbag. If I was a bad soldier, they would have been like, nah, man, you got to recycle. And I'm pretty sure hell is doing basic training over and over again, because I think you only would get recycled one more time and then you're out. But imagine you got to go through the whole 6 weeks leading up to shooting before you you get a chance to shoot again, and I would just set everything back, man. It would have been off on him. So relieved, but that's a a side story. But yeah, went through all that and then went back to school and started going. And the original plan was to study mathematics because I couldn't figure out exactly what. Plus, there was no lab science that I had to do, and I wasn't like scared of lab science or anything. I just figured that I'd have to like miss class for work or boxing. Right. It's very difficult, if not impossible, in many schools to let you make up lab work. Okay. But then I took a physics class and I said, wow, this is really interesting. This is what I want to do. I'm going to try and make this work. Okay. Yeah, and I took the physics class because as part of my AIT, I had to go. AIT is the Advanced Individual Training for your Military Occupational Specialty, DMOS. There's all kinds of acronyms, right? You just got to explain them each time. You have to go through something called BMAT, Basic Mechanical and Electronic Theory. And there I was like, oh, I want to be an electrical engineer. Okay. And so that was the goal. And then I went and took the physics classes that you have to take for that. And I said, I think I want to do physics instead. And so originally I was like at Duquesne, and they have a joint program with the University of Pittsburgh where you get your BA in physics from Duquesne, and then you get like an electrical whatever engineering discipline. Okay. You get that from Pitt. Okay. But halfway through I was like,
too much?
Well, it wasn't that it was too much. I started making real money on the internet, and then I started tutoring kids, and I was like, my personality, I'm not gonna work for somebody in an engineering lab. I didn't know what I was gonna like. If I got a job on someone's payroll at this point, it would almost certainly be as a teacher of some sort. Like it wouldn't be in a lab, and not because I'm like, oh, let me go teach it, because those who can teach, those who can do, those who can't teach. But I have a unique set of skills, like personality traits. Yeah. I'm very good at communicating. I'm immune to the curse of knowledge, so I never forget what it's like to struggle. I'm patient, and I try to grapple challenging things, and I think if you grapple challenging things, it makes it easier to deal with and instruct in easier things, and how did all this come together? It really saved me. When I lost my fight, I lost like I said, not a lot of money in boxing, but I was living on it. But I had to figure out how I was going to make enough money to pay my rent and eat and go to school, because now, because I'm not going to quit school. I got to finish school. Because
Right.
every place that I applied to traditionally, they were like, oh yeah, just come in and work full time, man. We'll start you like $50,000. I'm like, okay. I really appreciate the offer. That's actually kind of what I was going for. Like, I went back to school so I could stop making like $9 an hour.
Right.
But I really want to finish the degree. We got some sunk costs here. I already went.
Right.
And I ended up tutoring. And because of those unique skills applied to something like physics or math, I had more work than I had to turn. First, I tried to raise my prices. Then I just started turning work down. Here's the cool thing about this. I remember saying, I remember when I got the offer to go do this, my coach asked what I was doing. I said, I'm looking at some different stuff online and to tutor. I was tutoring with this company online, Varsity Tutors. They were only paying $17 an hour, which is still an upgrade, but you want to talk about it wasn't 40 hours a week. We're talking maybe 6.
Got it.
Got
it.
And then he's like, let me talk to my wife, and his wife is a counselor at Mars High School, and she was like, hey, he can come tutor, but I gotta tell you, can he tutor math or science, because we don't really need anybody else. And I was like, are you kidding? That's like all I can do, that's it. And because the unique intersection, people who study these things don't tend to be as personable as I am, and also they tend to have jobs, right? Because no one is studying physics and then going, oh, I'm going to go tutor our high schoolers. Like, no, that's not what they do it for. So I ended up in this, just dropped in, no competition, and I'm doing well at it too. So I went from worrying how I was going to pay the rent to I think at the height of my operation, and it could have went higher. I didn't have the time. I was probably doing $1,000 a week, and it was all cash. From tutoring kids at $50 an hour,
right?
Putting in 20 hours a week, easy. With that's 3 sessions every other day,
right? And
then I had a kid on Saturday or Sunday. Easy, had a lot of fun. Made me a better student.
I bet
too.
I bet
because a lot of going over some old math, you get to see it all just kind of layers on.
Well, you're learning again, right?
Yeah.
And you're teaching someone else.
And so I'm like, oh, that's why. Okay, now I see why that works there, and it was fun, man. It really made a difference. But that's kind of how my education went. And from 28, and then I finished even with because I did all of that work, and especially pushed so hard in the first 2 years, I graduated at 33, and it was more like 4 years, because remember I started in January, but my birthday is in February. So see, I did it in 4 years, and that's with the semester off. I could have did it in 3.5.
Is your major in mathematics?
Physics.
It's in physics.
Yeah.
And is the minor in math? Is that how they have it?
Yeah, because to
pick 2 easy subjects there, Ed. Just want to let you know, just 2 pieces of cake. Walk through.
Well, yeah, I was like, because college is expensive, and I was like, okay, how do I make sure that I'm at least in a position to pay this back, and I don't get, because one of the benefits of wasting, because there are a lot of benefits to the way I did it. One of the benefits of wasting the better part of a decade is watching everybody else kind of step up the bat, and then not be able to get jobs because they majored in XYZ,
right?
Or see how much student loans cost,
right?
And what they're gonna charge. So I said, okay, I have to do this the right way, otherwise this is pointless. I'm like, it looked like to me if it didn't have anything to do with math, I was better off not going.
No, I get it.
So, and then it just was like, oh, physics, that's cool. Okay. And it was fascinating. They had enough math. I looked at and saw the different job opportunities. Apparently, when you study physics, you can do just about, and it makes sense. I mean, we get trained in all the sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Computer programming is a must.
There's a heavy dose of logic in there.
Yep. A lot of modeling. I mean, so a lot of people who study physics end up on Wall Street. They end up as quants, teachers, software engineers.
Was it at the point where you were doing a lot of one-on-one, tutoring / almost mini consulting at that point with your students?
Yeah.
Was it at that point that did that help you identify who you are today?
Absolutely.
In regards to your own branding, what services you offer, where your skill set is, the whole picture.
Yeah. Here's what's funny. I spent all of this time avoiding the soft skills because I didn't think they were useful. Right? I didn't. I always wanted to be a writer, but there was no way in hell I was going to major in English, literature, none of that, communications, nothing. Right? Because I went and refined my abilities through a very challenging quantitative skill, I learned that I am better at discussing and breaking down concepts and teaching them than other people. And I said, okay, I wonder if this is why my writing is, works for people and why they, and so I go, okay, I see what I do. I'm good at teaching and connecting, and let's bring all that in. And I go, okay, and what am I teaching and connecting? Well, I'm teaching what I've learned and experienced, and I'm putting it out there in a way that's palatable. It's very easy for a person to go, I see it and I can use that, and this is for me.
In speaking, talk about that skill set, because you could be the most tremendous one-on-one tutor or counselor, but as you know, oftentimes it does not translate to speaking to a group of people.
So once again, here's that luck. I got to take more credit for things, but I just can't do it. I mean, the older I get, the more I realize that everybody has they got their own little mix of traits.
Sure.
And, it's up to you to maximize them and put yourself in a position. But yeah, so one of my unique traits. Are you familiar with the Big Five, where they measure your extrovert? Right.
Yes.
So I, on neuroticism,
the Briggs test.
Myers-Briggs is the one where they have the MBTI, where you have
there's 4 quadrants there. Right?
Yeah. Well, with that, for me, but the one I'm talking about, the Big Five, is they measure your conscientiousness, extroversion, openness to experience, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Okay. Those are 5 traits, and then different combinations correlate with different things. Whatever. Right. But for neuroticism, I am in the 0th percentile. For all intents and purposes, I don't experience nervousness, at least not in the way that you probably do. And I never thought of it this way until someone described it. Like I remember there was a sports psychologist that saw us when I was out in LA, and we were going over some stuff, and he was like, well, you're unique in that you don't feel nervous before a fight. And I'm like, well, it's not that I don't feel nervous, but I just recognize that's a feeling, and I don't really give it any credence. Yeah. But I look at all my feelings like that. I know that I'm angry, but I know that doesn't mean anything. It means about the same as being in love to me. It's just a feeling. Like I can let myself indulge in it if I want to, but then I remember it's just a feeling, and I pull myself back. Same way with fear, nervousness, whatever. Maybe I get nervous before I go and talk in front of a bunch of people. Maybe, probably not, because I recognize you gotta have a healthy bit of arrogance about yourself.
No question.
But I recognize that these people are here to hear me, and I've earned that. Like I
right to be standing in front of them.
Yeah, I don't suffer from an imposter syndrome in that regard whatsoever.
Their confidence is high.
Yeah, confidence is high. Neuroticism is low, so I don't have a problem talking. I feel like my verbal acumen is higher than the average person as well. Like I don't have a problem not only stringing words together, but finding the correct word for the correct situation. And I believe that. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. What is relevant is that I believe it and I act upon it. And so the reality that's presented is someone that can speak well, even as we're talking here, right? And because I think that's important, right? I try to get better. Like even as we're talking here, I'm aware of things like ums and ahs and fillers. So as you go back and edit this, I would hope that
There's no edit.
Yeah.
It's just going to roll, buddy. Only if we need to use the bathroom. That's the only edit here.
But if you did, you'd hear that those things are non-existent because I've put so much energy into coming up with different ways to fill space. Because it's important. It's a skill to me. It's a craft, just like writing's a craft. I look at my old writing.
Subtle things.
I look at my old writing and I'm like, oh my goodness, how did I even build an audience? But that's just because there's no gift. There's no gift in that regard. When it comes to the improvement, there is no gift there. Other than maybe having a greater capacity for self-correction. And self-correction comes from self-awareness, and if you don't know you're making a mistake, you can't do anything about it. But getting better at speaking, at writing, at making connections, that's a skill. I hesitate to call it a soft skill, but you need to be able to make people like you. If people don't like you, man, they are not going to. They will go. Okay, let's feel like this. When a person likes you, they will go out of their way to help you. Like that story I told about the shooting practice.
Right.
If a person dislikes you, you're lucky if they ignore you. But a lot of times, if they have the opportunity to make your life difficult and it doesn't cost them too much energy to do so, you will find yourself with problems you didn't need to deal with.
Right.
So that's another part of my mix of unique skills that kind of show up.
Do you think that the human do you think that humans in general are not aware of their likability quotient?
Yes. Because people have a very difficult time stepping out. And look, I'm thinking about writing a post on this, called the Stoic's Guide to Being a Sociopath. That's like what I titled it in my mind. Because if you look at the traits of sociopathy and to a more extreme degree psychopathy, if you look at those traits, they all I have a lot of those traits in common. The stark difference between me and a psychopath is that I have a strong sense of morality and I feel connected to other people. All the other stuff, 100. I just don't feel that heart racing. I have felt it, but I've learned to control it and deal with it. So it's working, and there are a lot of advantages to being that way. But until you have the ability to step outside your emotions, kind of the way I was describing with with why I don't feel nervous, or if I do, why I can just go, okay, we're nervous, let's continue to move on. That's letting us know something's going on, but let's keep moving forward. Right. You can't be aware of how you're coming off to other people. You're too self-centered.
Absolutely right. I would agree.
But
I would agree.
This whole thing, what I do, make sure that it serves as a buffer, and a fairly effective buffer. Because I've been accused of a lot of things, but selfish, I don't hear that one too often, because I'm at least aware. I'm always aware of how what I do is going to be perceived by other people, whether I want to be or not. And a lot of times whether I care is a different story, but I'm aware of it. And that's because I'm always stepping back. And so for a person to be aware of their likability, the first thing they have to be able to do is to stop. I know it sounds ironic, but they have to stop worrying about how they feel about anything. Right. When you stop, and it's not like put the other person's feelings first. I think that's the misinterpretation. It's no. You really have to stop thinking about how you feel, and then be able to, and then step out and look at the entire situation. Like, I'm able to get angry. I don't like getting angry, all right? But I'm able to, when you can control it, you're not really angry. But I'm able to know this is coming on and step out and go, hello. Well, you are feeling a certain way right now. Why is that? Wait, now this isn't a conscious conversation, but it's just like, okay, I'm looking and going, well, what am I gonna do? What's the best way to respond? What's the best way to use this, right? So it's that strategic thinking applied to something that people don't normally think of as something you have control over. And I'm not controlling it in the sense that I'm turning it on and off. I'm controlling it in the sense that I know where it is going. I know where the wave is going, and I know whether I need to ride it or get out the pool.
Right.
I have no control over the tides whatsoever. All I can do is control how the boat and those tides are going to, what are we going to do with this? Are we going to ride? Are we going to leave? This is I got to figure out how to put this. I have this thought about emotions and kind of my guide to this likable stoicism.
What led you to stoicism? Or let me ask you this, if maybe not an event, how far back, even if you were unconsciously aware it was stoicism, what led you in that direction? In your personal makeup?
My mother. 100%. And look, this is not, she taught me. My mother is the farthest thing from a stoic, but I learned early on that if I was going to deal with, I was aware of that. That's crazy. But I learned that if I was going to deal with my mother's emotions, I needed to be in control of my own.
Okay.
So I have someone. My mom is someone who, she feels more than she thinks, man. There's no other way around that.
Right.
Is that a good or bad thing? It has not worked out for the best.
A great much society's that way, though, which
Right.
I agree. I mean, it seems to be a prevailing way of life.
For sure. Oh, for sure. And I never wanted to. First, it just started with me wanting some control of my general life. I'm like, man, I really hate any attempt. I'm very sensitive to anyone trying to emotionally manipulate me. Like I'm aware of it, and it makes me angry. So one thing that's great about my girlfriend is that I don't ever feel like, now either she's really good at it or she's really smart. No matter what, point is, that's a trigger, and it ain't never been, triggered.
Right.
And
Right.
as a woman, that's like what they kind of do.
Right.
And so that means a lot to me. But the bigger point with the emotions of my mom is that I just wanted some control over me and my world. That's where it started.
When you were young.
Yeah. And then I realized that, just looking around me, that a lot of problems people had, whether it was with the law or getting into fights, they always happened when they lost control, and then they started to feed into the negative energy around them. Look, it's one thing when someone comes to you and they want to, put a beat down, they want to have a problem, they want to escalate a situation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to escalate.
Right. Right.
But because you feel threatened and your ego feels threatened and you don't want to look inferior or weak, you escalate back, thinking you're fighting. I mean, you think you're fighting back. You think you're pushing back, and they're gonna back down to recognize your dominance. Very early, I realized that I could avoid a lot of problems in my life if I could keep people from getting to that point where I had no choice but to escalate.
Right.
All right. So it develops even more, not only in the house but outside the house. I learned that winning a fight is cool, but it's much better than not have to fight in the first place.
Right.
And it didn't really matter because these were just opinions. They don't matter, right? It didn't really matter if people thought you were weak, Now, you don't want to avoid a fight by exchanging favors or something like that.
Right.
No.
Right.
You want to be able to talk people down and keep them cool.
Right.
And there's ways to do that where you look weak, and there's ways to do that where they don't even know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
If you figure that out, but to do this, you have to get your ego out the way.
Right.
And you also have to be aware. You have to be aware of yourself, because look, with your emotions, I don't think anyone has formally defined it this way, but I am of the belief that the more emotional you are, the more difficult it is for you to think. It's very, if not impossible, to do both. I'm not saying that when you are emotional about a thing that you turn into an idiot. No, but I'm saying that you just don't. Emotions are in the present. They're like, let's feel now.
Well, they're not attached to logic at all.
Right. Completely detached.
Right.
You're thinking. See, look, that's how every mistake a person gets into. They get blindsided by emotions. You know that they actually they distinguish it in our legal system between premeditated murder and crimes of passion.
Right.
We recognize what can happen when you get emotionally overwhelmed.
Right.
You quite literally lose the ability to control yourself and plan out actions for the future.
What does Stoicism encompass for you? What does it mean to you?
It means to me, and maybe this contradicts the formal definition.
Let me get you a little bit closer to the... Here you go, buddy.
Oh,
Make sure they can hear you, that's all.
So yeah, it means to me, and maybe this contradicts the formal definition, but it means, one, to not let your emotions rule the decisions you make, but to be in control of them. And you can't really control your emotions, so maybe that's incorrect, but it's to use them to enrich your life rather than to be enslaved by them. Yeah, that's the first step.
Okay.
The second step is to realize that there's not much you can control. If anything, really all you can do is put yourself in the position to take advantage of what happens and what occurs, and the kind of natural or unnatural ebb and flow of life. So what it's done for me when you combine those two things is that I recognize that that most of this world is beyond my control, and there's nothing I can really do about it. But I do get to choose my interpretation of it and how I react to it. And to me, interpretation is very much an action-based thing, or action-based feeling, or action-based concept.
Okay.
So, I can say it looks a certain way or it is a certain way as much as I want to, but what do I do about it? And to me, what I do about it will tell you my interpretation of it, just as it'll tell me.
Okay.
And I don't think that you can, think yourself into a new way of acting. I think you have to act yourself into a new way of thinking, and that's why my idea of interpreting things is based on the steps I take, the moves I make. So I never let myself, or I try. The goal is to try always to act based on what I think is the best way to go instead of how I feel. How I feel doesn't matter.
That's key, I think.
Yeah,
that's key.
And I think the tough parts of my life helped me, made it easier for me to digest that information. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And like it doesn't matter what happens to you. No one really cares. And if you do have someone that cares, that's nice. But it's better to expect the world to be harsh and be pleasantly surprised than expect it, to be kind, to be unpleasantly surprised. And that, to me, is part of the stoicism that I encompass, is that I expect the world to not care. If it does, great. Instead of I know that to make the world care or to have leverage, I am very practical, very pragmatic. I know that I have to do something valuable to make the world care. I never think that just because I exist that makes me special or interesting or worth anything. So, we sum that philosophy up. My emotions do not influence my decisions. That is not to say I don't feel. I do not let them interfere with my decisions. And if I do, I consider that an error. Like I've made a mistake if that happens. No matter what the outcome is, if I make a decision based on how I feel, that is incorrect to me, and I always want to try and correct that.
There's an epidemic of that today, though.
Very much so. People think that how they feel justifies action, and I think that's how we get into a lot of. That's how every problem is caused, because when you base a decision on a plan or a thought or a reason course that you worked out, that forces you to at the very least consider what's going to happen when you do it, and then how people are going to react to it on the second order. So you can think and see, okay, is this is what we get worth what we give up? Because no position's perfect, but what you get, is it worth giving up? And if we think about that, we can avoid a lot of issues. We can think about the enemies we make. We can think about all the problems that have come to mind. Like the epidemic of today we talk about. This reminds me of the 2016 election. And I remember, I don't pay attention to politics because it's something I can't control, and it's so. And then that's one of the bigger reasons.
Most Stoics don't.
It's so far beyond me. Like I don't invest energy. But I remember, because of my position on the internet, I just see a lot of stuff coming in, and then I know people. I don't look at it based on how I feel. I just look at what I know about people and how if you do something, there will be an equal and opposite reaction, usually greater, because people always think that no one thinks in terms of fighting to a draw or fighting to balance. That's a very disciplined act. Most people think about overdoing it in return. So I was just looking and I was like, people don't. I don't know if people realize this, but Trump's gonna win, and that's just what it. That was my very non-invested opinion. And I remember looking on Facebook. I had a friend. He said, if Trump gets even 170 electoral votes, I'll eat a bug on Facebook. And I was like, yeah, dude, I don't think you understand, because what you're making that bet based on is how you feel.
A lot of that election was based on feelings.
I'm telling you, based on what I see, that you guys don't understand how people perceive the everything, the country and everything, right? And here's the thing. Here's what's bigger. What that's a bigger symptom of. No matter whether you think he won the popular vote or not, significant enough people voted to where he won the Electoral College. That means that you live in such a bubble that you don't realize that 50% of the inhabitants of your country think differently than you.
That's East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah.
They're the same in this instance. Yeah.
And that was one of the most telling things to me, is watching how people, because my audiences are set up very differently. Facebook is a lot of people that I don't, or rather that I do know, because of how Facebook's connection algorithms work, and Twitter, the other platform I use a lot. I've met almost none of the people on Twitter. They're all just around the world who follow on thoughts. So I look at both, And so my one audience is very much metropolitan. A lot of people from Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, the places I've lived, okay? Twitter all over the world. I'm just looking at them like, it's so interesting to see the difference because I never get caught up in how I feel and people think how they feel. And actually, I would even go as far as to say that people don't understand that their feelings shape their thoughts rather than vice versa.
Correct.
The more people I talk to, the more I realize that to legitimately do it is rare. And that's why to legitimately go, okay, my thoughts shape how I feel. Like I tell people, I don't have any opinions. I just follow the numbers.
Right.
If there are rather there's almost nothing that I have an opinion on. Like to where I would just go, okay, show me the numbers. What makes the most sense to follow.
Right.
And the things I do have an opinion on, the state agrees with me, right? Like I don't think kids should be like in relationships with adults, for example.
Right.
The state agrees, so I don't really need to invest opinions energy on that. But I don't have an opinion about anything at all. You just show me the number, show me the numbers, show me the facts, and then we go, okay, what is the right course to go based on the information present?
But that way of living is such an infinitesimally small percentage of the population that lives that way. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Would you not agree?
Oh, I 100% agree. And it's unfortunate, but you know what it does? It just gives me an advantage. It
creates opportunity.
It creates opportunity.
If acknowledged and utilized.
And it keeps me so happy. For I don't know stress. I don't know it the way people know it. My stress is eustress. I think that's the word, not distress.
Right.
I am always trying to push myself to accomplish more. I don't let my emotions get entangled with things I can't control.
Would you not agree that social media, and I know that's a big broad, I'm painting with a big broad brush there, Ed, but the concept of social media, meaning throw all of us in this bucket who use all those platforms, generally use those platforms, it has really helped proliferate the lack of critical thinking.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I don't think it made it any more or any less.
Okay.
Here's what I believe. There's an old equation that goes diversity plus proximity equals war. Normally, I will not interact with any number of people because we have proximity separating us. But what social media has done is that it has crossed everyone up. People who never interacted before are interacting every day. And so what people are seeing is, wow, people really don't think like me. This is crazy. And how they respond to it,
it's even crazier.
Is even crazier. Remember when now we're both old enough to remember this. What were the things you were not supposed to bring up in company? You're not supposed to bring
Politics,
up who you vote for, and religion.
and sex. Those are three I was raised to talk about.
And I actually said that on Twitter, and somebody said to me, "Wow, you must be really old." And I'm like, is that how quickly things have changed?
Pretty much. It appears to be.
Right.
It appears to be.
But that was smart because we knew that people cannot deal with differences that way. The United States is very unique in the rest of the world of how heterogeneous we are. Most places are very homogenous. Mm-hmm. They all speak the same language. They have the same history.
Right. Right.
a lot of it's different because I'm trying to think of places that are as mixed as us. Brazil's got similar issues too, and even in terms of how they reacted in their government. Jair Bolsonaro is like the Latin American Trump. That's what they call him, right?
Right.
So that's interesting how that goes. But look, you go to China, go to China, go to Russia, go to Japan. Any Eastern European country, right?
Right.
Not a lot of diversity. This Mexico. Go. How many blacks you gonna see in Mexico? Right. It's not uniform. Or rather, here is not uniform. Most of the rest of the world,
correct,
is uniform in the shared history, and so the perspective tends to be a little more shared. But now everyone's crossing over, and then we're also. If you break the country down by how it typically votes, historically, and this is interesting because each candidate's supposed to bring something new, something fresh, right? But historically, you can cut the United States right up. They got swing states. It's not really a swing state though, because it's only a swing state. And the only states that are swing states are the ones with a large urban city, because the city is the only one that changes how much does the city grow, right?
Right.
But generally speaking, the less dense a place is, the redder it goes, right? With some notable exceptions, mainly Florida and Texas, right? But even those places, even Florida has swung before or comes close. And why is that? Because it's got Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Orlando, Miami, and I feel like Tampa, all these places that have close to 1 million people in their counties. So yes, depending on how the people in the cities feel, that's what changes it. But my point of bringing that up, because I'm far from a political expert, I'm more of a people expert. My point of bringing that up is that social media is allowing us for the first time to realize that just 20 miles over, there are people who think, act, and believe in a completely different way. And before social media, we could live our entire lives and not know that and be in peace because it was pretty much accepted by de facto.
Right.
Even if you didn't talk about it, you're pretty much gathered in the same religious communities as people, the same political ones.
Bubbles.
As we're seeing, the bubbles existed and there was no real way to pop them. Now though, you just log on Facebook and you realize that guy that you go to the gym with, holy hell, what a soy liberal or what a gun toting Republican. It's
and you think it's healthy?
Do I think it's healthy? I was having this discussion with somebody on Twitter, and I mentioned this exact idea about how we didn't discuss politics and religion, and he said people should be able to discuss these things. We always, it's only recently that we've gotten like this, to which I replied, I go, no, we've always been like this. We had the wisdom to kind of avoid the worst parts. But look at how people get riled up over the sports team sometime.
Perfect analogy.
We're not very good at dealing with conflict. And I think... Okay, I think it's a feature, not a bug, in terms of humans and how we developed from tribes to societies to an entire civilization, and the different levels that you needed to be. We spent most of our time in these little tribes, right? And it was probably wasn't a good idea if you got along more with the other tribes' ideas than your own,
right?
Is it time to evolve? Sure, but it's also time to realize that you don't need to eat all the sugar you see. That's always going to be there. We have advanced way faster in our capabilities than our biology, like way faster. We first saw that in the obesity epidemic. That's simply a result of It's not that people are greedy. We have a biology that says, yo, you're not gonna ever have these calories again. You should gorge on this sugar. This is a great energy source. Difference is like now we're not walking 10 miles a day every day, right? We're starting to see the same thing with our social interactions. People were never designed to interact with groups this large. I think I think it's called Dunbar's number. I might be getting the name wrong, but how we were only designed to interact with like 150 people, and then beyond that, you didn't remember.
It's too much.
Yeah.
The human fatigue sets in at some point. You don't think it's happening to you, but we're all being. This is the new reality for those who really dive into social media. The interactions could be hundreds a day.
Yeah. Oh, for
We're not
sure.
wired for that.
And even I have to be smart about it because, yeah, I have some unique advantages in not just my biology, but also in my philosophy for interacting with people and staying separate. But even I'm not immune to it. If I'm just, I could interact with 1,000 people in one day, realistically, because it's so easy, just from the phone, computer, got to be careful. You have to be careful.
No doubt. Ed, I want to invite you back. And there's so many avenues we could go. One of them is this whole social media. I could talk to you for 3.5 hours on that because I want to hear your wisdom on that. But this has been amazing. I appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. I had no idea where the conversation was going to go.
It's been fantastic. I think for a first show, and I hope it's one of many that you come and be my guest on, because I think you're sharing your wisdom and you're sharing your unique insight, and it is a unique insight, I can assure you. Much different than most of the guests that I have on here. It's a different way. Stoicism is a different way of living and a different way of critical thinking. And I think sometimes, for me, certainly a layman in the philosophy of Stoicism, way more than yourself, I find it useful, and it forces us to slow everything down.
Yeah.
Take the emotion out of it, slow things down, start the process of not even critical thinking, start the process of just basic thought and what is about to come out of my mouth, how I'm feeling at the moment, what is my state, and taking a second to examine that stuff. Because I think the average person doesn't do it on a daily basis all day long. We run by the seat of our pants and we run by the seat of our emotions. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
And you seem immune to that.
No one's immune
to me, my friend.
No one's immune.
You sure seem to be.
I have resistance.
You sure seem to be. So the next time you come on, I would love to have a discussion where we can go down that rabbit hole of Stoicism and critical thinking and everything else, and get a little more detailed in regards to even the decision-making process that you use on a day in, day out basis as well too. But before we wrap this up today, I want to talk about how can these wonderful viewers and these wonderful listeners reach you.
Well, I feel sorry for anybody who comes in to the internet game with the name Ed Latimore, because I've got
You're
that
the only
on
one.
lock.
you do have that on lockdown, buddy.
My Twitter handle is Ed Latimore. My Instagram handle is Ed Latimore. My website is edlatimore.com. My Facebook is Ed Latimore. I'm Ed Latimore on all those platforms.
Now, your prior works, your self-published prior works, they're available for
on
purchase
Amazon.
on Amazon. That's
Just
correct.
type in Ed Latimore, and those books will come
See
right
the
up.
recurring theme here, friends?
Yeah.
You also mentioned off camera too. We won't get into specific details, but you're also working on another publishing event coming soon.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Very, very much so. Yeah, it's an ordeal, but it's a fun one,
good ordeal.
because I'm not coming into it naked. I have some tools. I have some leveraging points.
Awesome.
That's what we're trying to do here.
Well, this has been one of the most enjoyable shows I've done in the past year, and we were talking off camera, year and 3 months, 4 months, and I appreciate your work, my friend.
Awesome, man.
I absolutely do. Did you have a good time?
I had a great time.
Yeah, well, you and I'm saying it publicly here, you have an open seat there anytime you want to be on this show. And the next time I hope we get to dive in a little more. Now that we got your history and your first show under the belt, we can dive a little more specifics. And
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate it.
Lazy content. Absolutely. Come back again for sure.
All right. Thank you.
All right. It's Ed Latimore right here, friends. We are out.